Lake Coeur is a beautiful lake. It's world-renowned for the resort Floating Green. It's tops all the lists of most beautiful lake towns in the country, and everyone wants to live on the lake. But everyone always thinks about the pros of living on the lake. We're also going to go into some of the cons of living on the lake. So stay tuned, we're going to break it down next. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello there.
Come out from the side.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. As always, we are putting out weekly videos. I'm Lindsay,
Sammy, Randazzo.
And we are here to educate you and inform you on all things North Idaho, whether it's the real estate market, schools, recreation, pros and cons of living here. We're here to break it all down. And today, what we're going to be talking about is owning lakefront property. But before we do that, don't forget, if you are liking this content and you want to stay up to date, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. That way you'll be the first to know when a new video comes out each week. So like I said, as real estate agents, one of the things that is the biggest draw for us in terms of people inquiring, especially from out of the area, is they want to know about what it's like to live on the lake. Coeur d'Alene Lake, the city of Coeur d'Alene sits at the very north end of Lake Coeur d'Alene, and it is our community's crown jewel. It is a beautiful place to live, and I think I personally don't live on the lake. Do you?
I do not live on the lake, unfortunately.
We don't live on the lake,
not.
But we know a lot of people that do. We've been in a bunch of lakefront homes, and we've spent countless hours recreating on the lake every single year. And so we know about the beauty and the draw of it all, but we also kind of want to educate people about some of the cons of living on the lake that you don't think about when you're considering buying a lake home. So we'll start with the pros first. Pros first and foremost, it's an amazing investment. Lakefront property typically tends to hold its value really well, even in perspective to a lot of other types of properties or investments. Lakefront homes tend to hold their value really well because the inventory of lakefront homes, regardless of inventory issues on a bigger scale for real estate, lakefront homes tend to be farther and fewer between. And then they also have that waterfront aspect to them, so that creates even more value. And because we're not making any more land, those lakefront homes retain their value so well, and they're also incredibly desirable.
Yeah.
I can tell you I've pulled all sorts of information on owners all over the lake, on the lakefronts. There's thousands of homes on the lakefront, and they don't pass hands very often. I could tell you in the last couple of years, I feel like the inventory on the lake's been really slim pickings.
Yeah.
Lots of interested parties, so the value is always driven up even higher than you would see here in town. So always an incredible investment. And then also from the aspect of potentially, say you want to Airbnb or short-term rental something while you're not using the property, especially if you don't live in it full time. It creates an incredible draw because we have so many people who want a vacation here in North Idaho, and being on the lake is where people want to be.
Right. Without having to go through the hassle of physically driving to the lake or, that.
Yes, exactly. So great investment first and foremost. Second pro is it feels like you're always on vacation.
It does.
Yes.
It's really nice.
I appreciate, being able to walk out. I have a handful of friends that have lakefront property, and have been lucky enough to be able to continually be invited out and enjoy these properties with them, and to be able to just walk out your front door and like be on the lake or be in a boat or be on a paddleboard, or even just
hang out on the dock,
even just enjoy the views. I mean, it feels like you're on vacation.
Yeah.
And I think too, you know, I think about the movie like The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, and you know, the lake house or summer rental. You know, everyone's trying to find their lake house or their waterfront property that they can go vacation at. So it's really nice owning a lakefront home or a waterfront home to be able to just pop out and be on vacation at all times, all the time. So next thing on the list, the proximity to nature. Like we kind of mentioned, you walk out your front door and the water's right there. Now, Sammy was telling me a story earlier. You grew up, you had a boat. You guys had a boat growing up.
We had a boat growing up, but we were not lucky enough to have a house to store the boat on the water, right?
Yeah.
So the process of enjoying your boat when you don't have your own dock or your own slip is exponentially more difficult.
It's
and
a
little bit more stressful.
It's a huge
so,
production.
You know, you have to get up, you have to pack all of your things and prep the boat and gas it up and drive it to the launch and launch the boat and then park the car and then do it all again when you want to pull it out. And it's just really a 2 or 3 hour production, if I'm being completely honest, that makes your fun recreational time a little bit more of a task, if that makes sense, and a little bit more of a job.
Stressful.
And then your parents are yelling at each other because they're crabby because they have to haul the boat. No, I'm kidding. But
and all the toys and the kids.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more of a production. A little bit more work has to go into it when you don't have the luxury of just kind of walking out on your dock, hopping in your boat, and taking off.
Yes. Low maintenance.
Yeah.
Access to nature. When you've got a waterfront property, especially if you own a boat and you are able to have a dock and a slip. Yeah. So access to nature, I mean, like I mentioned, I mean, you're out there, you could be fishing off your dock. You're not driving, you know, an hour and a half up the Coeur d'Alene River, or, you know, again, pulling your boat in the water and trolling somewhere. It's like you can fish right off your dock.
Right.
Maybe hop on your paddleboard, you know, versus packing it in your car and taking it out and blowing it up, and then, you know, again, pulling everything out.
Stays right there on the dock, ready to go.
And you just plop it in the water when you're ready to go. And so access to nature in that aspect of owning property right on the water, it just makes it very convenient.
Yeah.
Very convenient. So next thing on our list is we feel like lakefront properties really are a great bonding mechanism for friends and family. Absolutely. Like we mentioned, and we were laughing about this earlier, this could also be a con.
Right. Everyone wants to come to your house.
You will always have company if you have a lakefront property. Always. It'll be your friends, it'll be your family, but it's a great bonding mechanism. People spend time at the lake house. Especially if it's a second property and maybe you live out of state or it's a second home. It's a way to bring the family together, and it's a way to bring the friends together and kind of spend that constant time doing activities, making food, just building memories and bonding.
It's really difficult to have a bad time, I feel like, on the lake. Like I agree. It's very, I mean, for me, it's like nostalgic as well. And like we were saying, like making memories with your families, it's all kind of like water related. I feel like you just go to the lake and
there's something special about lake time. I think it's like calming. Again, it feels like vacation. You're not, it's like you're on island time, you know, and nothing else really matters. You kind of forget about all the stuff back at home and your chores and your obligations for work, and you know, it's just nice to bring everyone together. And I think too, for families that own lakefront properties, they keep them in the family for generations. Absolutely. And like I mentioned, they don't come, you know, there's lots of properties that have been handed down for many generations, and they'll, you know, maybe something pops up on the MLS and it's like, this has never been on the MLS before. It's been owned by the same family for 50 years. Right. So they kind of force that family bonding and interaction with friends and whatnot. So they're great mechanisms for quality time. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. So The next pro on our list is the views never get old. Most lakefront properties, and not all of them, but a lot of them get built where a lot of the activity happens on the front, or I guess maybe you'd call it the back side of the house, because you pull in with your car, or you're parking somewhere on the back side of the front, what would traditionally be the front side of the house, but then the back side of the house has all the views of the lake.
Right.
So you've got your bedrooms back there, your kitchen, your living rooms, maybe even
Decks,
a bathroom, lots of decks, lots of patios, and pretty much, lots of rooms, if not almost every room in the house has some sort of view.
Yeah.
And so on Lake Coeur especially, it's just so expansive.
Right.
And depending on kind of where you're at on the lake, you could see everything from like downtown in Tubbs Hill to Arrow Point, and nearly Carlin Bay almost, if you're in a particular location. But views are amazing. It never gets old.
Yeah.
Never gets old.
The coffee hits a little different.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the lake.
When you're watching the sunrise off the deck.
There's the mist, or
like the fog and the mist
fog
on the water, and it's super quiet in the morning,
it's beautiful.
And then the lake gets really active in the middle of the day, and then sunsets in North Idaho are always amazing. So like just being able to like eat dinner and watch the sunset, or have a bonfire on the beach and watch the sunset, or watch the boats go by, and people watch. The views from your lakefront home will never get old. They'll never get old. So now we're going to go into the cons. And I think it's important to note some of these cons because everyone always thinks about all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But there is definitely an aspect of extra work and extra expense that go into a lakefront property that sometimes people don't anticipate. So first and foremost, the wear and tear on a lakefront property is probably a little bit more than you would see on a house in a neighborhood, because you're on that waterfront and you've got the water lapping up against the shore the whole time. You've got the weather coming in.
Windier off the lake,
yes,
just in general.
Yes, and in certain locations on the lake too, you're going to get more weather and more exposure, or all day sun. And when your home is sitting out on the edge of the water and it's getting all the weather coming in from the water, and then it's getting the sun beating down on it, materials wear out, they fade, they break down. And so there's typically a little bit more maintenance that goes on at the lake place than it would at your traditional primary residence inside of a neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah. And then also, usually at the lake place, you've got like a dock or a well or some sort of water system or a pump that's pulling water out of the lake, and a septic system. And so when you're not tied to these city utilities, which, is a luxury in and of itself, when you're not tied to these city utilities, that's another expense. If the septic breaks down, or if the water's not pumping, you've got to call someone out, and those can get really expensive.
Yeah.
So lots of maintenance and wear and tear, and kind of a little different utility system on the lakefront properties that you don't see here in town. So our next con is, especially if it's a second home, it's double everything.
Right.
You have double the beds, double the bathrooms, double the kitchens, double the pots and pans, furniture, bedding, towels, all those things. So it can get a little expensive, and it can be kind of maddening sometimes maintaining two residences.
Yeah.
So definitely not for kind of someone who gets overwhelmed by maintenance and duplication, because you're going to have to stock your second home with all the creature comforts of your main home.
Yeah.
So also, double the plumbing problems, double the electrical problems, double the the roof and the landscaping. If you've got landscaping, not all lake homes have landscaping, but a lot of them do. And, you're mowing your lawn at home and mowing your lawn at the lake, so, or you're winterizing the house in the wintertime, so that's something to think about as well. It's double the work, double the chores. Next thing on our list is taxes are higher on lakefront properties. Property taxes will always be higher. If you can see the water, even if it's just a little tiny glint through the trees, If you can see the water or you're on the water, you are absolutely paying more in property taxes. And if it's not a primary residence, you're not getting that homeowner exemption.
Right.
So you're paying, again, more in taxes.
Yeah.
So buyer beware. And then also, I guess here's another thing I kind of want to bring up, and I've heard this over the years as a real estate agent. You've got like this generational cabin that has been in the family. It's kind of a small, like true cabin. And then someone comes in and buys an acre next to you and builds a monstrosity, a mansion. You know, like we've had some stuff on the lake in the last year selling for 10, 20, 30 million dollars. And when you build that, you know, that property next to the little legacy property, all of a sudden the property taxes on this little one next door go through the roof. And we've seen scenarios over the years as Coeur d'Alene has grown and the lake has become more popular, where people have lost their properties or have been forced to sell them because the property taxes have become so high. So buyer beware. Again, know that property taxes can be pretty high on the lake. And if someone builds a mansion next to you, your property taxes will probably increase as well. So the next thing on the list is there are more restrictions to building and maintaining and remodeling property on the lake. And the reason that there are is because they want to maintain the integrity of the lake and the beauty of the lake. If they just let anyone willy-nilly come in and build or modify their shoreline or do whatever they want to their property, it could be structurally unsound. A lot of property around the lake is hilly and rocky. You have to have, certain water amenities or features, like the lake pump or the well on the property. That requires a little bit more oversight and regulation because you're tapping into the water system on the lake. Septics also are a little bit more, they've got a watch on those a little bit more than they would in town because they want to make sure that you're not, secreting waste into the lake. And then also another big one is the shoreline. Sometimes people want to come in and build a bunch of stuff and they want to modify the shoreline, but you can't do that because it could cause problems with erosion into the lake. And so there's a lot of regulations with the DEQ and so Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Department of Water Resources, even the tribe, because the tribe owns the lake. That you've got to go through and jump through a lot of hoops and make sure that everything is clean and safe and fits within the kind of box that they make you fit into when building, remodeling, landscaping your property on the lake. It's going to be a lot harder to get things done on the lake than it would be in town. And then last but not least, we kind of touched on this in the family bonding thing. There's a lot less privacy on the lake than I think people anticipate. You're like, oh, I want this lakefront property. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have my family over.
Yeah. Even if it's like a 30-minute drive, technically out of town.
Yeah. But then on a busy summer day, you've got 100 boats in the water coming in and out of your bay or right in front of your home. And I'm not immune to this, but lots of looky-loos and lots of gawkers.
I want to look at the real estate on the lake.
Yes.
Go take a peek.
It's one of my favorite things to do on the lake is drive around and look at the new homes that are being built.
Well, everything's so different. Like, it's obviously not like a neighborhood, so all of the properties are so different. It's interesting to go and kind of look around and see like, oh, what's being put up this year or what's been remodeled since last year. And especially if you've lived here for a long period of time, it's kind of been fun to see the development, I guess.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
like, oh, that's new, or they remodeled that last year.
Yes. And I did not grow up here, so, when I get out on the lake, I feel like often enough, but every time I'm out there, I see something new, and I'm always like, oh my God, I haven't realized that house, look at that house back there. Like, look at this monstrosity, we haven't been in this bay yet, and you get in there and you just want to sit and look at everything. So you're gonna have a lot of people, out in the water looking at you. So if you're out on your dock, sunbathing, or you're out eating dinner at night, you know, or watching the sunset, or maybe even trying to, you know, do some things inside your house. You know, maybe you're changing in your bedroom or something. Beware that there are people out on the water looking in at you, so it can feel a little less private. Yeah. But also, again, like we talked about, everyone wants to come and hang out at the lake place too. So you might never get a quiet moment.
Right.
You know, you're like, oh, I bought this lake place to relax, and now you're entertaining everyone every weekend.
And like our summer season is only so long, right? We don't have the luxury of an all year 80-degree climate. So, you know, in those 3 months, I would say probably tops, like
maybe
where
4
it's like,
if you count
like
September.
Hot. September in the last couple of years has been really nice, like kind of a longer summer. But you know, 3.5, 4 months. You know, there's maybe only a handful of weekends where people haven't planned a trip to come see you.
Yes.
Which is great, unless you want to be alone. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
you're not going to ever be alone on the lake.
Yeah. You might have to like do your own blackout dates.
Yes.
You cannot come see me on these weekends.
I will not be there.
Out of office.
Wink, wink. Yes, exactly. So those are our lists of the pros and cons of owning and living on the waterfront here in North Idaho, whether that be Lake Coeur or Hayden Lake. There's some smaller lakes. I guess maybe we could touch on that real quick. Some of the smaller lakes around here, like Twin Lakes or Spirit Lake or Hauser Lake, aren't as active as Lake Coeur d'Alene. So they might be a little quieter or sleepier, you know, but you're also not going to see some of the activities on those lakes that you do see here on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Hayden has a little bit of activity on it, a little bit busier than the rest of the lakes as well, but Coeur d'Alene it's happening on the lake here in Coeur d'Alene. So if you want to be on Lake Coeur d'Alene, you know, definitely expect a lot of these pros and cons that we've mentioned kind of coming to fruition. So if you live on the lake or you have experience owning waterfront property and you feel like there are other pros and cons to add to this list, please drop those ideas and opinions in the comments. We love to see what our viewers have to say and how this content resonates with them. So don't be afraid to utilize the comment section. Again, if you have any questions about living on the lake up here, whether it be Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, any of the smaller lakes as well, or what it might take to get into a lakefront home, make sure you call your friendly North Idaho realtors, Lindsay, dAlene,
Sammy, Randazzo,
and we can totally help you out. We're happy that you guys have enjoyed this comment and you follow along with us. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.